Well, good morning, everybody. We are just getting started. We're letting folks kind of get populated into the meeting. We're excited to have so many folks with us today and representing the university. We're excited to have some of our alumni who will be giving some good information that I think will be helpful for everybody. And so you're welcome to, we're going to go ahead and mute everybody so that we don't have background noises to deal with. And we'll just give folks a couple more minutes. We'll go one more minute here as people are still joining the call. So welcome. Hope everybody's doing okay. Hope the smoke in your area is something that you can, you and your families are okay. We've another challenging 2020 thing to add to the list this year. But for all the Dodger fans, I know it's a good morning. I know folks are enjoyed the celebrations last evening. So good. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm glad to welcome you. My name is Dan Montplaisir, the Vice President for University Advancement and the CEO of the Cal Poly Pomona Philanthropic Foundation, which is the nonprofit group that manages all charitable donations to the university and manages the university endowment. So we'll have a couple housekeeping things. Everybody's been muted. And then also we'll be able to use the chat feature. So down at the bottom, you've got the button that says chat. If you have questions, we've got time towards the end. We've got 10 or 15 minutes where we'll go to the chat questions and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about some of those events. We're pleased to have so many alums with us today. And we're excited to have two of our alumni professionals in the field of financial planning that will be presenting for us today. This continues to be a field that changes all the time with elections and other things. I saw just yesterday, there's a new bipartisan bill, which is a word you don't hear that much these days. It was in the House yesterday, talking about looking at different ways to encourage people to save. And so one of the possibilities that was mentioned in the article was the idea that the required distributions could be moved back from 72 to 75. So for lots of us, that would be a big impact for us as well. And while you may be familiar with some of the material that we're going to cover today, I think what's equally important is that you're taking time to consider these issues thoughtfully. And also as your situations change over the years, I'm sure our professionals would tell you, you continue to make changes to these plans as you go. Just a quick update on the university. You'll be pleased to know that the value of a CPP, a Cal Poly Pomona degree, continues to rise, and the university's excited to have additional national recognition and accolades. I really believe that all great universities have one thing in common, and that's great alumni who are connected to university and engage in lots of different ways. So even as we moved into our pandemic response, it was the Bronco network and volunteers that stepped forward. There were cash donations that allowed us to give out emergency student grants to students who are losing jobs or their housing situation. The university's been trying to respond to laptop and Wi-Fi hotspot needs of our students. And so folks have been providing those or contributing towards those. And then our alumni office launched a new online mentoring program where alumni offered coaching, career insights, and helped others set up internships and hiring opportunities. So as you know, the students are still out there, those that are graduating this last cycle. It's been a challenging time, but many continue to apply for and secure their first job out of college. And so while nationally there were a lot of articles and concerns about possible declining enrollments at universities all over the US, Cal Poly Pomona actually increased our enrollment by 6% this fall. And so we now have 30,000 students. And those of us that work every day on campus would say that might be a problem for parking. And amazingly, one of the few benefits of all of this was that because only a small percentage of our students are actually coming to campus for those classes, the university was able to manage that number. And we had nearly 60,000 applicants for a class of about 7,500 starting in the fall. That's about half transfer students and half first-time freshmen. So a Bronco degree continues to be very much in demand. And even as the size of the university grows, it's really this idea of we're part of the Bronco family that's the heart of all that we do, and our student success is the reason why we do the things that we do. The campus is providing classes online, extensive education for our faculty. So those that weren't familiar with all the online tools, we were able to run some programs all summer that our faculty participated in. We had learning communities so that those that are quite experts with online learning would be able to share with their colleagues and do that. So we'll have the campus ready as students can come back in larger numbers. But until then, we want to do our best that we can to offer the best online education. Cal Poly continues to shine in the national rankings. Out of 128 universities on the West Coast, we continue to be ranked #2. And Money Magazine this year bumped us way up the list to #6, the #6 university in the nation for publics, as the best universities and the best investment for college. So we're very excited. And the last one I'll mention is something that's been true for maybe the last 5 years, is there's been social mobility rankings that talk about people who are coming from the bottom quartile financially as a family or as a student. Cal Poly Pomona is in the top 10 in the nation for helping them use their degree to be able to start a great career and be able to move up socially and economically. So we're very proud of our students and our graduates, and everybody's working very hard to make sure that our students can have a great career. Just finally, before I introduce our first speaker, I've got a couple of guests on the line today. We've got from our alumni board, Dean Brew. We've got our former dean of the library, Emma Gibson, joining us today. And I can see on the video, we have the president of the Preddy Foundation, Mohammed Virani, whose foundation invests in our students so that they can visit K-12 schools and support environmental education and learning more about that. And also from our Philanthropic Foundation board and the chair of the Collins board, and from Walt Disney, Michelle Gendro is with us today. So thank you to some of our volunteers who have been a part of this call. Now I want to turn to our first presenter, Charlene Usher. Attorney Charlene Usher is a graduate of Cal Poly Pomona and the University of California Hastings School of Law. She's been practicing law since 1998, and she established the Usher Law Group in 2001. She's passionate about helping families understand the importance of providing for and protecting themselves and their families from court, costs, and conflict that often happen as a part of the probate process. Additionally, she loves to help people leave a legacy in support of their favorite causes and charities so that they live on beyond their natural life. Attorney Usher also specializes in probate and trust administration. So please welcome one of our proud Broncos, Charlene Usher.
Off mute. Thank you. Can you hear me? All right. So nice to be here with you this morning. I have my Cal Poly bear with me. I don't know if you can see that, which I've had for about 10 years. It's always a pleasure to participate in some of the fundraising events and to come on campus for things and see all the changes that are happening. It's very hard to believe that next year, 2021, will be 30 years since I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona. And it feels like yesterday. I still remember graduation and all the things that were happening when I was on campus. So every once in a while, I get to bring my daughter on campus. Before COVID, we would attend equestrian events and come see the flowers and do different things on campus. We came to homecoming. And this is a picture of her. She's Taylor. She's 9. That's my why I do what I do and why I love doing what I do. So I'm so proud of Cal Poly Pomona and how they have been able to pivot. How they've been able to pivot in these environments, just like most of us have had to adjust. I think everybody is on Zoom meetings and we're doing things remotely. If you look in my office, you'll probably see some boxes because we are going to paperless as a result of all this, so we can work from anywhere and be with our clients and able to assist them. So I participated in some of the fundraising for students who need laptops so they can continue to participate in classes and continue to pursue their degree. And I want to thank all of you who joined me in any of those fundraising efforts and anyone who wants to do that in the future. So I'm going to be talking about estate planning and why that's important. And let's see if I can get here. Yes. So one of the things we're talking about is how do you leave a legacy beyond your lifetime when you're no longer here so that you are still making a difference. And when we talk about estate planning, we're talking about the benefits of estate planning so that what we've accumulated over our lifetimes doesn't just disappear. It isn't subject to costs and things like that. Well, the first question is, what is an estate? Because a lot of people have an idea that when you say estate planning, you're talking about someone like Oprah or Bill Gates. I don't have an estate. I'm just a regular person with a house and a car and different things like that. Well, actually, an estate is everything that you own and control. So anything that has your name attached to it that you're entitled to, that's part of your estate. So the question then is, what happens if you don't do anything? What will happen with your estate? Well, in California, you're putting someone else in control when you do nothing. So after you pass away, the operation of law puts into place what I call a default plan, which means something will happen. It may or may not be what you would have wanted, but something will happen. So there's quite a few myths that people have, and one of them is a will controls the distribution of all my property. A will plans for my disability, and a will avoids probate. So I think most of us have heard the term will, and a lot of times you could, if you needed a will, you could go on something like LegalZoom and you could prepare one. Whether it would be admitted in court would be a question, because there's different things that have to be a part of it. But the one thing about that is, if you have an estate in California where the gross value exceeds $162,000, even if you had a will which says what you want to have happen to it, that will would have to go through the probate process in probate court. Let's see. So probate is almost like a lawsuit that you set up against yourself that benefits your creditors, and the people that you want to receive from your estate are less likely to receive as much as you would have left them. And sometimes attorneys like myself even become an heir to your estate based on how much the attorney fees end up being, which is not usually people's intention. So I'm just going to give you a quick example of the cost of probate, because I think this is where the greatest impact shows up, and people are like, well, wait a minute, I didn't know that was going to happen. And that's most of us. Most of us are in the category of ignorance. We had no idea these things are going to be happening. And so why would we think about planning? So this is an example of how probate costs are calculated, strictly based on the gross value of your estate. So that means the day you pass away, what were the things in your estate, what were the value, what will they sell for? It's not going to matter what you paid for it. It's not going to matter what you owe on it. It's the gross value of your estate. So in this example, we have an estate that total gross assets $670,000. It has a residence, some insurance policy that may not have a beneficiary name, personal property, savings account, typical person. So the first $100,000, they're going to assess 4% or $4,000 right off the top. The second $100,000, they're going to assess 3% or $3,000. Up to the next $800,000, they will assess 2%. And once they get past $1 million, anything over that is 1%. So in this case, the attorney fee or the statutory fee is $16,400 that has to be paid before anybody can get any distribution. Any heirs will not receive anything until these costs are paid, fees and costs. So who's entitled to these fees are the attorney who helps the administrator go through the process, and the administrator, personal representative, or executor. So that fee can be doubled to $32,000. In addition to that, you have costs that range anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000. So as you can hear me say, I'm talking about numbers and money. They're just adding up, adding up, adding up. And typically, all of that can be avoided by having a trust-based estate plan, which we'll be talking about shortly. So the benefits of, or the detriment of not planning, or the fact that you lose opportunities. You don't get to decide who will receive from your estate, when and how much, because there'll be a default plan that decides that. You won't get to nominate guardians for minor children. You won't get to avoid these fees and costs. And then the probate process itself, pre-COVID, was 1 to 2 years, closer to 2 years, depending on what county you were in. Now that COVID has added delays to the court process and probate is on the bottom of the list for cases and trials that are being heard, it could be upwards of 3 years before your family receives anything. So we want to avoid all that and stay out of that. The main thing I want to point out here is that estate plans should be fitted for each family. There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all plan, because every family is different, has different things that are happening in their asset mix and their desires and things that are going on. So you need to have someone that's sitting down with you to talk about your specifics. So when you're doing estate planning, you want to control your property when you're alive and well. You want to plan for yourself and your loved ones if you become disabled. And then you want to ultimately give what you have to whom you want, when you want, and how you want. You can do all that through estate planning. Okay, so let's skip over a couple of these. So sometimes there are some other options for planning, including being a joint tenant on property with someone, having payable on death beneficiaries, and designating beneficiaries for things like IRAs, as well as gifting. But ultimately, the best way to plan is to have a living trust. The living trust allows you to have all the control we're talking about while you're alive. It allows you to decide who's going to receive from your estate, and it decides who's going to receive when based on what conditions you set. Okay. So once you establish a trust, hopefully with an estate planning attorney who knows what they're doing, the second part of that is funding the trust, which simply means attaching assets to the trust. We've had multiple people come to us after someone's passed away, and they have a trust, and they may have had done it themselves, or they had a trust meal, which was not attorneys prepared for, they're not estate planning attorney. And when we go to find out what assets are owned by the trust, there are no assets that are actually attached to the trust. So the whole process after you establish your trust called funding. And if that doesn't happen, then it's like a waste of time and money. So you have to make sure that that part happens. Okay, so a good estate and planning attorney, such as myself, will devote their practice to family, estate, and business planning, listen to your goals, make sure they maintain a long-term relationship so that you're not a transaction, because things happen over time where changes in the law happen, changes in your asset mix. I mean, what if you win the lottery? What if things change? What if you have more family members who are born? How do you account for these changes in your life and your family? And then all of that should be done with fully disclosed costs so that you know going forward exactly what to expect and what to look for. Okay, so we talked about that. The benefits of a living trust are you get the chance to control your assets, you avoid probate if things are done properly, and you minimize the possibility of costs and contests. So our goal is to avoid costs, court, and conflict. That's our goal in our estate planning. Okay. I can't tell if I'm going forward or backward. No, I am going backward. Let me go the other way. All right. So one of the documents in the part of your estate planning set of documents, we talked about a living trust, which is the main document that helps you avoid probate. But what happens to things before you pass away if you become incapacitated? If you become incapacitated and cannot handle either your financial or legal affairs or your medical affairs, your family may have to go into probate court to seek what's called conservatorship. Very expensive, very time consuming, and ultimately your family member may not even be the person appointed over you to handle things for you. So you probably wouldn't want a stranger being in charge of you and charging your estate to do that. So what you would like to do instead is to determine who that will be. So the legal way to do that is to have what's called a power of attorney, where you designate who will be your agent to handle your financial affairs, legal affairs, anything you would normally sign your name to. In addition to that, for your medical and your living situation, you would have an advance directive, which will say who your agents will be, what you would like to have happen if you're at the end of life, if you want to have your life extended by artificial means, or you want to be allowed to expire naturally, so your family doesn't have to make that decision for you. And also whether or not you want to have your organs used for any purposes after you are no longer here. Okay. In addition to those things, when you're doing your planning, you have a chance and opportunity to do charitable planning, which is one of the main reasons why we're here today, to talk about how you can support the causes and things that are important to you. So in most of our cases, beyond our own selves and our family, we may have a goal and desire of leaving a legacy so that we're supporting other people. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be based on insurance policies or any number of tools, which I'm sure my fellow speakers are going to speak to later. But the charitable planning part of the estate planning allows you to leave that legacy beyond your lifetime, so you're still making a contribution. And in some ways, those things can even be tax advantageous to you. So they'll be discussing those. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned a lot. I want to let you know that if you have a desire to find out what your options are for estate planning, we here at Usher Law Group are available to assist you with that in California. And once you know what those are, you can make better decisions and you can take control of your legacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlene. That was a great warm-up for us to get us started. As you would expect, right, there's lots of details to this, and so we're kind of trying to hit a variety of topics at a high level so everybody has that as a basis. And I believe we're planning to send out the PowerPoint presentation so we can send that as a link to people so that they can see that material and look at it at their own time. So Cal Poly Pomona is blessed with a wealth of talented alumni. And now I want to introduce our next speaker, which is Nung Rigor. Nung is a proud member of Cal Poly Pomona's graduate from the College of Hospitality Management, the award-winning hospitality program. She's a class of 2000. She had extensive management experience in hospitality over 10 years, which included Disneyland, the Wilshire Grand Hotel, and Lowry's restaurants, before she changed her career into financial services in 2009. Currently, Nung is a broker and principal of her own agency, the Resolute Financial and Insurance Services. She's involved in many organizations in the community and the business and civic community. She's an ambassador of Fullerton Chamber of Commerce, chair of the Women's Club of Fullerton, a member of Rotary, the LA5, business counselor at the Inland Empire's Women Business Center, and a regular speaker at the Institute of Women Entrepreneurs of Orange County. Nung is honored to serve and share her knowledge and promote her alma mater because she's grateful for the exceptional education that she gained at Cal Poly Pomona more than 20 years ago. So now for our second presenter on financial planning, please welcome Nung Rigor. Thanks, Nung.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Can.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Vice President Dan. It's an honor. And just correction, not more than 20 years, exactly 20 years. Well, let's get started. And thank you so much, Noel, to help me move the slide along because I'm pretty low tech here. So I would like to talk about the importance of why we should have life insurance and long-term care insurance as part of your estate planning and retirement planning. Because you could be working on your planning, putting a trust together, but if there is no vehicle to fund your trust, then it can't work as you had envisioned it to be. So next, please. So here are some of the benefits of life insurance when it comes to integrating it into your estate plan. It will help you reduce the effect of your estate taxes. Currently, the estate taxes start at $5.6 million per person. So that's 5.6 times 2 for a couple. And there are ways that financial professionals can help work with your CPA and your attorney to creatively help start transferring the wealth into your children and grandchildren and reduce your estate taxes, which I will mention a couple of ideas in the future slides. If you love someone and you owe someone money, you definitely would need life insurance so that when you pass away, there will be a tax-free, well, generally tax-free death benefit proceeds to help pay off those debts that you owe. Another thing is life insurance can be structured as part of your business agreement. For example, if you have, let's say you're a business owner, you have 2 sons. One of your kids is very active in your business, is the CEO of your business, and the other one does not care and pursues other things in his life. So you would want to structure it in such a way that when you pass away, your wealth and your assets are being equally divided. You can obtain a life insurance policy in the amount that is equal to the worth of your business. So this way, when you pass away, your active son who is working in the business can get to take over the business, and the death benefit goes to the other son who is not active in your business. Or sometimes life insurance structured as a policy to help insure 2 business partners so that when one business partner passes away, the death proceeds can help pay off the widow's share of her stock to the company if she's not interested to manage the company with you, or the death proceeds of the deceased business partner can go towards helping you carry on with the business, finding the next best executive to help you manage your business. Another great idea, another benefit of having life insurance is so that you can help use it to fund donation to your favorite charity. So let's just say, in this case, our college. your alma mater. So what if you have in mind that you want to give away half of your estate, which is worth $500,000? What if you don't have to do that, but instead get a life insurance policy of $500,000 and make the college be the beneficiary? And then you would only need to use a portion of your asset to fund that and still be able to give the amount that you had in mind to support your alma mater or your favorite foundations. And generally, usually if structured properly, your permanent life insurance is passed on to your beneficiaries, your heirs, or your college, federal income tax free. Next, please. So high level here, two major types of life insurance is term and permanent. When it comes to term, most of the time it's a great solution for a short period of time. It doesn't have any cash value growing inside the policy, but it's a great low cost solution when you start off a family. In your younger years, it's pretty inexpensive, but it is a short-term solution with an intention that if you will always want to leave behind cash to your loved ones or your college, then you would want to convert that term into something permanent. And premiums usually goes up at the end of your term period. And once it renews, it starts to rise and gets very unobtainable as you age out. Usually it gets very expensive after you reach the age of 60. So usually not a tool that we integrate into an estate planning, but it is a great protection plan like renting a home versus if you get a permanent insurance, it's like owning your own home with equity growing inside, just as an analogy. So when it comes to permanent life insurance, usually it's in the form of either whole life insurance, universal life, variable universal life, and indexed universal life. Most of them have one thing in common, have cash value that gradually increases inside your policy, which goes into buying more death benefit as you age, and also allows you to have access to your cash value. And again, if structured properly by your financial professionals, you'll be able to access that tax-free. So that can also become a supplemental to your retirement income and help diversify your tax obligation, because the portion that you access from there potentially could be tax-free, and you can use that to buffer on the years that the market is down. You wouldn't have to go and access your securities asset or your 401k that was invested aggressively during the down years of the market, because you have other avenues to withdraw cash from. So usually permanent life insurance is a good tool to incorporate into your estate planning, retirement planning, and gift giving. And again, if structured properly, it's tax-free. I keep saying that because sometimes there are other ways to do it. They might overfund the life insurance premium, and it creates a situation called MEC, MEC, and it stands for Modified Endowment Contract. Nothing wrong with it. It still can be your permanent life insurance. It just triggers a tax consequence. So next, please. Thank you. So one of the great policies to use for estate planning usually is survivorship policy for people with estate tax problem, or people, a couple that's worried about their special needs child, or business partners who wants to ensure that their business can continue smoothly a transition of ownership. So for example, if you're a high net worth couple, you don't generally look forward to the life insurance benefit of the other spouse. You don't need it, you have plenty. You actually want to try to get rid of it to reduce your estate situation. So that's when the survivorship life insurance plan comes in. It pays out to your heirs after both of you die. So it actually has another name. This kind of plan is called second to die policy. So it insures both life, and it pays out on the second life And this type of plan is usually more cost effective than two couples buying individual policy. It costs less, and it's generally is underwritten more liberally because they don't count on the first life that dies. So one of the spouses can be unhealthy and it doesn't matter as much because they're underwriting based on the second spouse health. And these days, many hybrid survivorship plans also include a long-term care benefit where you can withdraw the death benefit while you're alive and needing long-term care. So that becomes your own long-term care benefits to pay for your care in nursing home or at your own home with your home aides or homemaker services. Oh, and I want to mention that also a lot of companies these days, when you have a permanent life insurance policy, some companies offering to match up to $30,000 to $50,000 of your death benefit if you pledge that to your favorite charity. For example, if you have $100,000 universal life insurance and you list Cal Poly as a beneficiary, 30% of it. So when you die, $30,000 will go towards Cal Poly, and the life insurance carrier of that policy will give another $30,000 to your college. Next, please. Another idea of reducing down your estate while you're still alive because you are, let's say, worth more than $5.6 million as a surviving spouse is annual exclusion gift. Currently, in the current tax law, you can give up to $15,000 a year per person from you. You can give it to as many people as you wish, $15,000 per recipient, and without any gift tax or estate tax incurred to you or your heirs or your recipients. So an idea is to keep transferring your wealth out of your estate so that when you pass on, there's less of an estate tax to pay. So here's an idea. Mom and dad aging and know that they're going to end up with 40% tax. What if every year mom and dad can give away $15,000 a year to each of their kids and their grandkids? So here's an example. 2 kids and 5 grandkids, that's 7 recipients. So dad writes a check of $15,000 per person times 7, that's $105,000. He transferred it out of his estate. Mom does the same, another $15,000 times 7 to her grandkids and adult kids. Between the 2 of them, each year, they can start giving away their assets worth $210,000 because they're within the annual exclusion gifts. And what if that $15,000 can go a long way? Instead of just writing them a check and go, here, kids, go to Vegas, have fun, enjoy, go make bad investment. What if you can help them fund a permanent cash value life insurance and put that in a trust called Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust and start funding that with your gift money with the premium of $15,000 a year on the lives of your children and grandchildren. By the time you pass on, these policies were worth even more tremendous than the $15,000 that you've been giving them, because it goes and buy more death benefit on themselves and create cash value that's growing inside the policy tax-free. And the whole thing is sitting in a trust, which we know that if the first generation is having an estate tax problem, and here they are trying to reduce the estate tax obligation, their kids and their grandkids will most likely have the same problem because wealth just keeps on growing. So here is a great idea to set these things up, and mom and dad, $200,000 a year gift can double up because of the type of plan that they set it up for their loved ones. Next, please. Now, here's another idea for the generous ones. I know that donors usually always feel torn whether what to do with their securities and which to give away, which to leave for their heirs. So there are a couple of ideas here. One is called charitable remainder trust, and one is charitable lead trust. And they both are doing exact opposite when it comes to process. So if you have assets that are growing, like an IRA, aggressively invested in the market, if you put it in a charitable remainder trust, you can create a stream of income for you yourself to start receiving it, your heirs to receive it, with an agreement that once your heir passes away, the remainder of the investment goes to, in this case, the college, your favorite charity. So let me see. And the other way around would be charitable lead trust, where you put your securities in a trust and set up a certain term period of time that, okay, I'm gonna let the college or my nonprofit have the stream of income for the next 10 or 20 years or 30 years. And once the term is up, the rest goes to my donor. So if you do that, and what if that stream of income that you have been receiving goes and fund a life insurance policy for your heirs? This way, your college receives the securities that you wish to give it to them, and your heirs gets the life insurance. Everybody could get equal amount, all from just one asset. So you basically doubled the amount that you want to be generous to both your nonprofit and your heirs. Next. So as I have been saying, life insurance can be funded as a charitable gift when you use your money to pay for the premium of the life insurance. If you let the college owns it, you can deduct up to 60% of that amount of premium as a charitable gift. When you own the life insurance and list the college as your charity of choice, you can deduct up to 30% of that amount. But either way, it is still such a great discount when you want to give away hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever amount it is, but in fact, you pay only a portion of it through the premiums paid into the policy. And usually these type of gifts are not public matter. It is a private plan, and usually death proceeds goes to the beneficiary tax-free. Next. Now, one other thing that I get asked a lot these days, because we just have incredible amount of baby boomers retiring, is long-term care. What is long-term care? Oh, Gina, how much time do I have left? Am I okay on time?
No, you have about 7 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So what's long-term care? Long-term care is either when you're in a skilled nursing care, like nursing home, and being closely monitored by medical professional, doctors and nurses, or in a custodial care, where usually occurs in assisted living home or in your own home with nurses, caretaker, home aides to come take care of you. Usually most of long-term care occurs in home and assisted living home more than a nursing home. Based on the statistics put out by U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, it will cost you a little over $250 a day, or almost $8,000 a month, to be in a private room in a nursing home, and about $3,600 a month to be cared for in an assisted living home in a one-bedroom unit. A lot of times, adult children opt to take care of their parents in their home and hire someone to come care for them 10, 12 hours a day, because it's usually less traumatic and better for them to feel comfortable in their own home. And that usually runs about $20 an hour. If you live in Southern California, the average is it's going to cost you between $60,000 to $90,000 a year to pay for some form of long-term care expense. If your aging parents need to be in adult daycare, that usually costs between $70 to $100 a day, depends on the area you live. Next, please. These statistics are not meant to put out to frighten you, but for you to be prepared and to know that these are the numbers that are real. And it's also going to help you when you sit down with your financial professional to start planning, design a plan, and it could be based on the statistics and the cost of care in your area. So statistic here says almost half of the population will end up needing long-term care of some sort in their lifetime. 47% of men over the age of 65 and 58% of women over the age of 65 will need some form of long-term care, whether it be in your own home or in an assisted living home or nursing home. And usually they go into that state at around the age of 80. Women will stay in that long-term care setting for about 2.5 years on average, and men about 1.5 years. Almost 50% of long-term care patients will need about less than 1 year. And 13% of people will need long-term care for longer than 5 years. And interesting statistics as well is that about 22% of high net worth individuals become needing a long-term care for 2 years or longer. So longer than average of 1.5 years. I guess luxury nursing home does pay off. You just enjoy living there longer. Next, please. So those stats, like I said, can help you design a proper plan based on a nursing care costs around your area and knowing how many years you want to structure it for, how long do you want the benefit to pay for, and how much do you want it to pay per month. I usually recommend to use what you can, and you can always self-fund part of it. Don't go overboard, because if you can't afford to pay the premium, then you would lapse the policy and won't get to use it when time comes that you need it. You can always find more information on long-term care on longtermcare.gov and many other resources these days. Next, please. Well, my last slide over here, I highly recommend that you get with your financial service professional, at least if you don't have time to meet with them every year, at least every 3 to 5 years. It's best to sit down, review your current plans, audit the plans, make sure that the beneficiaries are still listed correctly. Is there any life event changes? Your beneficiaries, are they all still alive? Has any one of them you decide to cut out of your will and you're mad at them, you take it out of your beneficiary? Or update the insurer of the change yet? Did you have your insurance agent call and make a change, or did you call yourself? Did you write him an email, a letter about it? And perhaps your needs change too. You may have gotten a few $1 million of life insurance when you had a lot of debt in your younger years, and now that you settle down and you no longer need it that much, perhaps you can let go of some of the life insurance. Or if you need more because your estate has grown, there are many reasons why you want to meet with your insurance professional every few years to make sure everything is correct. And that's it. Thank you very much for attending and listening to me. If you have any other questions, you can shoot me a message or give me a call. My info is at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much,
Nung. We'll make sure that everybody has the contact information for our presenters and other partners who are on the call. Certainly, as Nung went through that, you started to see the complexity, right, of some of the issues, which is why it's so helpful to have a professional alongside helping understand everybody's individual situation. So as we come into the final stage, we wanted to introduce you to our Director of Planned Giving, Vince Framini, and then also our other colleague, Gina Johnson, are going to help us work through some questions. And Vince is going to share a little bit about gifts of supplemental income. So please welcome Vince.
Hi, everybody. Glad to have you here this morning. And before I begin, I would like to remind you that we are going to have time at the end of the presentation this morning to answer any questions that you have. So please do use the chat component to write your questions down, because all three of us are going to be available to you to answer questions. And what I'd like to do first is tell you that we promoted this seminar today as an estate planning and a financial planning seminar. What we have for you is a little bonus now. We want to talk about supplemental retirement income, or supplementing your income, and how Cal Poly can help you to do that. We have two programs that I think you may be interested in for supplemental retirement. The first one I'd like to chat about is called our Charitable Gift Annuity Program. Notice the components in there, the words charitable gift and the word annuity. Most of you are probably familiar with what an annuity is. It's a program that provides an income to you on a regular basis, usually quarterly, sometimes annually, and usually over a lifetime or for a fixed period of time. What's unique about our gift annuity program is that our income is guaranteed to provide you with income for the rest of your life, regardless of how long your life is. It's also a fixed income. So during market fluctuations like we've seen most of the time during this year, where the markets are going up and going down, and we're not sure how to invest or where to invest or where our income is going to come from or how much it's going to be, our gift annuity program is a fixed income program. As I said, it's guaranteed for life. We offer some high annual payout rates, which I will show you in a moment. It can be for a single life gift annuity, or it can also be for up to 2 lives, the way we do our gift annuity program. I can tell you, please go back to the other slide. Ann, I'm not ready for that yet. Thank you. I can also tell you that a portion of the income for a fixed period of time will also be tax-free. You'll earn an income tax deduction. And the charitable gift component of the gift annuity is that at the end of the income beneficiary's lifetime, what's left in the investment does come to Cal Poly Pomona. So hence the term charitable gift annuity program. If you go to the next slide, Anna, now I'll show people the sample of rates that we have. And as you can see, they are higher than what banks are paying currently on CDs and money markets, and much higher in many cases than a lot of commercial annuities are paying. I've kind of narrowed the charts down to just 4 different years here. For someone who's 70 years old, you can see that we will start paying them at a rate of 4.7%. That rate will remain for the lifetime of the annuity. If you're 75, it bounces up to 5.4. If you're 80, it's 65. If you're 85, it bounces up to 7.6. So you can see there is a real benefit to taking out this benefit. The older you are, the higher the rate of return is going to be. In the case of a joint life gift annuity, where we provide a joint life for 2 people, using again the examples of 70, 75, 80, and 85, if both people were 70, the rate is a little bit lower because of a longer life expectancy, usually on the life of the second person, and that rate is going to be 4.2%. 75, it's 4.6, 80, it's 5.4, 85, it's 6.5. So again, you can see the older you are, the higher the payout rate is going to be. The other program that we have is called a charitable remainder trust. Now, Nung talked a little bit about that in her last presentation. And if you'll go to the next slide, thank you. Our charitable remainder, it's a charitable remainder trust program. It's a little bit different than the gift annuity program in that gift annuity provides fixed income. The charitable remainder trust provides variable income. And the reason for that is right now we're paying rates at 5% based on the principal amount on a valuation date of January 1st. So the income can vary with the principal balance. In good years, when the markets are accelerating and the principal balance increases, your income for a year will be higher than it was the year before. But the reverse is also true. In years when the markets don't perform quite as well, if we have to dip into principal and the principal balance gets dropped, then the income for a year will drop down. So it does provide variable income that works in both ways, both directions, both on the upside and on the downside. You can again earn an income tax deduction, which translates, of course, into tax savings. I can tell you that with the charitable remainder trust, if you fund that with appreciated assets like stock or real estate, we'll consider real estate in a charitable remainder trust, highly appreciated asset, you will avoid the capital gains tax. The capital gains tax is eliminated in this type of a retirement plan for you. The other thing I'd like you to know is that last year in 2019, there was an act that was passed at the end of the year called the Secure Act. And what the Secure Act did to people who own IRAs, planned on giving the IRAs to their children, up until December, you could have left that IRA in your trust and provided income to your children for 20 years or longer. There was no problem with that. And there was no tax consequence on making that transfer when the IRA was transferred, left in your trust and then given to the children, because the children then just paid tax on the income when they received it. Well, the law changed in December and have reduced the stretch IRAs down to a 10-year plan only, which means if you're going to give your children your IRA, they have to receive all of the assets that are in that IRA within a 10-year period. Our charitable remainder trust can help extend that plan and solve that issue for you. Again, it's called a charitable remainder. Think of those two words, charitable remainder. You can transfer the IRA into a charitable remainder trust, and there's no tax consequence at that time. And you can set that up to give your children the income from what was that IRA. It's now the charitable remainder trust for a period of 20 years or their lifetime. No tax consequence when you transfer the IRA into the trust. The children pay the income when they receive it over their expected lifetime or for a fixed period of 20 years. It's your choice. At the end of that term, what's left is the remainder, and the remainder goes to Cal Poly Pomona as a charitable gift. Hence the term charitable remainder trust. If you have questions about any of those things, please mention your name in chat and just tell me your name and write the letters CGA for charitable gift annuity or CRT for charitable remainder trust. We'll now take your questions or answer any questions that have been provided for us in the chat room. And my distinguished colleague, Gina Johnson, Executive Director for Central Development Advancement at Cal Poly Pomona, she will ask the question. So Gina, if you'd pick it up from here, that would be great.
Thank you, Vince. Very informative presentation. It's always an honor to have our alumni, our CPP family, share their expertise, so thank you. Again, as Vince introduced me, I'm Gina Johnson, Executive Director of Central Development at Cal Poly Pomona, and thank you all for joining us. For the remainder of our time, I will be reading questions from our chat posted, and our speakers will be addressing them accordingly. We also have some additional questions for the remainder time that we have this afternoon. So one of the questions that was posted in the chat, and this is directed for Charlene. A grantor of a trust has Alzheimer's and is gambling $85,000 at a casino. The individual has 2 doctor's letters stating incompetence, but the trust lawyer says nothing can be done except conservancy. Why?
Well, I wouldn't agree with that, because depending on how the trust is drafted, gives the powers to the successor trustees. So I want to point out that when you're establishing your trust, you're usually the trustee of your own trust initially, but then you name people to take your place if you become incapacitated or if you have passed away. So if the successor trustee has those documents that say that you don't have capacity, and the trust is drafted in such a way that grants the power to transfer at that point to the successor trustee, then the successor trustee can remove that person from having the ability to access those funds and basically waste the estate assets. But all of that depends on how the trust is drafted. So I can speak to how we draft trusts, but not to how all trusts are drafted. If someone was coming to me, the first thing we would have to do is review the trust documents to see what powers are there. If they weren't provided, then you may have to go into court and seek a conservatorship of that person, so that the court is saying, we're taking away that person's power to manage their own affairs. They no longer have any legal authority. But in a conservatorship situation, they're going to provide an investigator to go out and talk to all the relatives, and I mean all the relatives of that person and their neighbors and everybody that knows them, to determine if the person who's seeking to conserve that person should be appointed. They're going to appoint an attorney for that potential conservatee. It's a very involved process, because you can imagine that the court takes it seriously when they're taking away somebody's rights to their own assets or to manage their own self. So they take it seriously and they go through a whole process, and it's very expensive as well.
Thank you, Charlene. This question is for Nung. At what age should an individual take out a long-term care insurance policy? I think Nung is muted, so we will extend another question. Vince, this question is for you. How often should you evaluate, review, or update your estate plan with your attorney?
Well, I think that that might be better suited for Charlene, although I could answer that. I always recommend people should take a look at that every 5 years. I think Nung was talking about life insurance every 3 to 5, but Charlene or Nung, do you want to take that as well, reviewing your estate plan?
Well, we recommend that our clients review with us every 2 to 3 years. And the reason for that is because there are a lot of things that are changing in people's situation, one of which is the estate tax issue. So there's no California estate taxes, but there are potentially federal estate taxes. And Nung mentioned the approximate $5 million per person now. Previously, it was $3.5 million. And at one point, there was talk about it being $1 million. So for California homeowners or property owners, having a $1 million estate is very easy. So if things change in the tax laws, your attorney should be talking to you about things that you can do, such as she mentioned, the gifting options, because if you do have a taxable estate, the tax rate is 45%. So that's why people were up in arms when Aretha Franklin passed away with an $80 million estate, no estate plan. 45% of that will be going to the federal government. Plus, she has a special needs child who needs to have his benefits and services protected, which could have happened through a special needs trust if proper planning had taken place. So things happen according to your asset mix, your family makeup, the tax laws, so such that you should be in contact or at least reviewing your estate plan with your attorney every 2 to 3 years is what we recommend.
I agree with Charlene, and sorry, I didn't realize, I kept talking, I didn't realize that I muted myself. So regarding the long-term care insurance, generally, I noticed that people start to think about long-term care insurance in their 60s and 70s. Last year, I actually wrote a long-term care hybrid policy on a gentleman that was about to turn 80. We really waited until last minute, didn't we? I had 3 weeks left to get him insured, and we did. And I think I delivered his policy 2 days after his 80th birthday. So I don't think that most people don't think about long-term care plan younger than 50, but I myself have one. I'm 45. And because my father, I've seen my father going through it with his Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and you never know at what age you could become frail and not being able to take care of yourself, dressing and eating and continence or being transferred in and out of bed. So it really depends on whether you're financially ready to purchase a plan or not. The sooner the better, because you are still young and insurable.
Can I just tag along on that response to say that the same thing applies for estate planning. We have a lot of people that come at the last minute and literally the person's on the brink of being incapacitated, or they're very old, much older, and it's hard to make those decisions. So we recommend, if you haven't done it, especially if you have children, 40s is the time to get started. You need to get started. You can always update, but something needs to be in place and you don't know when something's gonna happen.
Right.
Thank you. This question is for Vince. Is there a dollar amount range that a CGA, a charitable gift annuity, are best suited for?
Here we go. Good. Yeah, good question, actually. We actually have a minimum age where we issue an immediate gift annuity, which means the gift annuity income will start, immediately, as the name implies, immediate gift annuity, and that age is 55. However, if someone who's younger than 55 who would like to engage in a gift annuity, we have a program called the deferred gift annuity, which basically means we can defer the start of that income period. So if you're 50 or 51 and you'd like to start your income when you're 55 or 56, you can create the gift annuity today, and you can start the gift annuity income to come to you when you're 55, 56, or pick the year. Our minimum contribution is $10,000 to start a gift annuity, and so you can figure out by doing the math. Contact me. I can tell you what the rate of return the payout rate will be for you over your lifetime. Do a little calculation on that, but I can give you a thumbnail overview. And so we started at age 55. Our minimum standard is $10,000 for a gift annuity. On our charitable remainder trust, we have a $100,000 minimum on that. Those are standards that are set by California State University system. Does that help, I hope?
Thank you. Yep. This question is for Charlene and Nung. How should a person decide if they need a will or a trust? And does it matter the size of the estate?
Absolutely, it does matter. As I mentioned before, in California, the threshold value of the estate determining whether or not your estate would have to go through probate is around $162,000. Or if you have real property. So pretty much any real property, including shacks in the middle of nowhere in California, are worth more than that. So if your estate, and that means everything that's in your name, adds up to more than that number, then your estate will have to go through probate. The difference between having a will and not having a will is your will have documented what your wishes are as to what happens to those assets. But it still has to go through the probate process. So the court has to determine, are we accepting this will? And then those fees that I talked about will come into play, and those time frames of 2 to 3 years to finish the probate will come into play. Versus having a trust, which completely avoids probate if it's funded properly, and the administration of that trust can take place within a year. So you're looking at more like 8 to 12 months with someone working with the successor trustee, so they can get to the part where they're distributing according to your instructions and have taken care of everything without having to ever go and deal with the court process or those fees.
Thank you. And what is the typical cost to establish a trust?
So we don't typically quote costs, but because there's, you want to be comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. When we talk about planning, we're talking about a suite of documents in your estate plan, the centerpiece being your living trust. So you really can't have a living trust by itself to be having an effective estate plan, because where are your power of attorney and your life documents, your advanced health care, you have to have things that support the trust, and then you have to have that funding process. So some law firms and people who provide these services offer piecemeal, and some offer a package. Some offer things like funding coordination to help you make sure that your plan will actually play out. So you have to compare what's being offered. But I would say if someone's offering you a full plan, that you can typically expect in California to spend a minimum of $3,000, more like $5,000, particularly if you're a couple, and depending on how many assets you have to be funded into your estate. That's a typical average.
Thank you, Charlene. This next question is directed to Nung. What should I do with my IRA this year since I do not have a required mandatory distribution requirement?
You mean this person is not yet 70 and a half?
I think this question is directed towards the new law that says that RMDs do not have to be distributed. So if you're over 70 and a half and you have a distribution and you don't have to take the RMD, what should you do with your IRA?
Well, if you're I'm sorry that I just heard from Vice President Dan about the new law that now they're going to stretch the RMD age to older than 70 and a half. But usually we sit down with people who actually don't even need to take out the RMD to show them that they can turn their investments into some sort of guaranteed lifetime income, because eventually they're going to need to meet that obligation anyway, that requirement, so that this type of lifetime income annuity allows them to receive like Vince showed you, somewhere between 5% and up for the rest of their life or as long as they live. And so that way they receive the income and meet the RMD requirement eventually, but they can start that early and outlast their asset, but never run out of the money.
Thank you. This question is towards Vince. Vince, as a director of planned giving, and you worked with many of our Cal Poly Pomona donors, which charitable remainders of or instruments are popular with our alumni?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. Well, and maybe it's because it's my favorite in part. I think the charitable gift annuity is a really popular of the remainder of the income instruments, the charitable income instruments, I'm trying to say. Of the charitable income instruments, the charitable gift annuity tends to be very, very popular because of the features and benefits. That guaranteed income is really a tremendous feature. And I'm finding that for most of our donors, the tax-free income portion can be as much as 75% of the annual income is tax-free. And that can run for as much as 12 to 15 to even 17 years, depending on life expectancy. And so, and it also offers, of course, that income tax deduction. So just a rash of benefits in there. For someone who'd like to wants to contribute a larger amount, a higher amount, well, then the charitable remainder unit trust is a good alternative if they want variable income instead of the fixed income. But the fixed income feature of the charitable gift annuity tends to be, I think, a very popular favorite among our donors for supplemental retirement income.
Hey, Gina, this is Dan. I'll just add as well that there's also a lot of property that gets donated to the university. So people either own a rental property or they own some land somewhere in the state. And so we've really been blessed to have a lot of alums that have chose to work with us to contribute their land, whether that's going directly into a trust and there's going to be a lifetime income out of that. But there's lots of different types of property in California that people have been very charitable with.
In fact, we just completed three charitable remainder trusts that were each funded with real estate. And we were able to sell that real estate from the trust. And by having the trust sell the real estate, there was no capital gain tax exposure to the donor, in addition to the income tax deduction that was derived from receiving the real estate, from placing the real estate rather in the trust.
Thank you. This next question is for Nung. At what net worth level can you self-insure for long-term care insurance?
Nung's on mute.
Sorry, here I go again. Sorry. Anyone who will not qualify for the state plan, you have to have less than $1,200 of in cash for you to be able to qualify for a free plan provided, through Medi-Cal. That means the rest of you would have to self-fund your own long-term care. And if you know that already, that you'll have more than $1,200 left in your retirement life, you need to start planning and make sure that you transfer that financial responsibility to an insurance company and pay a premium and expect an insurance company to pay for your care costs that could cost you thousands and thousands of dollars a month for at least a couple of years of your life.
Thank you. This question is for Charlene. Do some states have an inheritance tax?
Some states do, and I can't speak to any state but California. because I'm licensed in California and literally every state has its own rules. Generally speaking, in all the states, it's better to have a trust-based estate plan. But I can't go into any details about which states have what unless I was licensed there. I can speak to California because that's where I hold my license.
Thank you. And this next question is for Vince. You spoke about gift annuities, and it sounds too good to be true. How are all those benefits possible, Vince?
Well, for us to issue a charitable gift annuity, in California, we are actually licensed by the California Department of Insurance. And so they monitor and oversee the investment. And one of the things that we're required to do is to reinsure that gift annuity by placing 50% of that in a reserve fund that's held in reserve to help guarantee that lifetime income. So while it sounds too good to be true, what I've explained to you really works. And the government, our government encourages philanthropy, and they encourage philanthropy in this way. And so we follow a prudent investor rule to preserve the principal for future gift to the university. And we also invest for some growth in there and for some standard income. The other thing I wanted to say is that one of the reasons why you receive tax-free income is because we're holding 50% of that in reserve. Part of your annuity is a return of principal, and return of principal is not subject to an income tax. And so that's why you get some of that income in a tax-free status situation. Sounds too good to be true. Trust me, it's a good investment. It's a good investment for you and a great investment for Cal Poly Pomona.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince. And our last question is for Nung. You talked about using life insurance to make a gift to Cal Poly Pomona. Did you mean to give an old policy or take out a new one?
You can actually do either. If you already have a current policy of permanent life insurance, you can always update your beneficiaries and list Cal Poly as one of the beneficiaries. Or you can start a new policy, and then you can choose whether you want Cal Poly to be an owner of it. Then when you write a check equal the amount of the premium to Cal Poly, they will pay for the premium on your behalf. And that's when I said you can deduct your premium amount up to 60% of that, versus you own the policy. You can take out a brand new policy, own it, and list Cal Poly as the beneficiary of your policy.
Thank you, Nung. And Dan?
Oh, and by the way, like I said, some of the companies now offer to match up to $30,000 of the death benefit that you pledge to your nonprofit.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Nung. And Dan will close our presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for everybody joining us today. Charitable giving at the university is still very important. As a state institution, the amount of support that we get from California continues to go up and down over the years. The recession was a difficult hit. So starting in 2009, it took actually 10 years before the university was back to the level of support. It was 2019. And then at that point, we also were servicing about 25% more students with the same amount of money coming from the state. You certainly have heard about tuition going up. We just had recently an 8% cut this year in the current fiscal year we're in because of the projections in the state. And so we really appreciate people that think about their plans, people that think about philanthropy as a way to support the university. We're blessed with a great team of people that are here to help you and work with you. And we also get to see every day the students' lives that are impacted by their Cal Poly Pomona education. It really is transformative and puts them on a career path for their families, their kids and grandkids in California. So we're really in an important location, and philanthropy is going to continue to play a role. So we thanks for your time today. We thank you for your interest in Cal Poly. We'll make the video available to people who were not able to make the call today, and we'll send out the information with the PowerPoint. And then we're here to help have whatever conversations about how your own plans and ways that you'd like to get back to a particular college or group of students at the university. So thanks so much, and please let us know how we can help.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.